This is the first part of a series about maximizing your data when you have an enterprise content site. I'm talking a site like Hubspot, like Freshworks, and like Intuit. If you are a enterprise content site, stick around because we are going to be diving through the data order of operations, making sure you have everything you need to squeeze every bit of revenue out of your marketing data. Hi, my name is JJ Reynolds and I'm the founder over at VisionLabs. Today we're going to be talking about how to maximize your content. If you have not yet seen, the data order of operations is our 9-step plan to making sure you are building on a solid foundation. We're going to be skipping around a little bit and talking about your ideal plan first. We need to understand exactly how your site is both structured and what you're trying to do. I say what you're trying to do very loosely because that is what marketing is for. Marketing lives between your intentions and the outcomes, meaning, hey, we're trying to drive leads that then go to sales, that then go to buy the product, or maybe you're doing a more free trial or free account based structure. It doesn't really matter, but the goal is that you have an intention, we're trying to do this, and then an outcome of here's the outcome that was actually achieved, and your ability to optimize lives in between that gap. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's hop into the screen and I want to talk through, this is the data order of operations if you have not seen it yet. So let's talk through your ideal plan, and I'm going to hop on into a more fleshed out diagram. And this is something that a lot of teams really do understand, is that you have leads, you have then a conversion objective, and then you have a revenue and money. So the leads, let's consider that like PDFs, webinars, guides, tools. These live in your CRM and not necessarily in your account if you're a software or if you have any other type of account structure. And then we have accounts as free versus trial. We just want to differentiate between those two because otherwise things get very, very spicy if you don't understand what an account actually is. And then we have sales, which is revenue, transactions, orders. Usually most enterprise sites have some of this content, and the goal is that you have 1,000 PDF downloads that turn into 100 free trials and turn into 10 sales, right? That's the general goal. Then we have our content that's going to be layered down on top of that. We then have our blogs that are usually grouped into verticals, categories, and tags. And we're going to define our content as two different types of content. We have the blog style, article style content. So you could have this by categories, by verticals. There's a lot of ways to organize your content, but think just educational, the reason we have this content on the internet. We then have pages, and we're going to define pages as something that is meant to drive an outcome or objective. So usually we will have this kind of 3-step approach. We'll have the content, the blog or the article that drives to a page that says, hey, sign up for this thing, that then drives to the actual conversion objective happening. Sometimes you can embed those in the actual content. It just gets really dicey when you're talking about, hey, what are we trying to do here? Because you have now a form that's embedded in a piece of content. Again, pros and cons to do that, but we're talking about the traditional, hey, this content takes you to this page that takes you to this opt-in. This is a quick interruption to tell you about our friend and sponsor, Analytics Canvas. If you are serious about pulling insights from BigQuery, GA4, and maintaining them without maintaining a team of analysts, Analytics Canvas might be the tool for you. You can use their drag and drop builder to build out really complex queries, maintain them, and then write them to any destination you choose. This could be writing directly to Looker Studio to visualize, Google Sheets, Excel, Tableau. They maintain this and automate whatever you build on their platform. So you do not have to go back and update packages or change things. They manage that for you. At VisionLabs, we actually use Analytics Canvas to maintain all of our GA4 pipelines for our enterprise clients. So why wait? Head over to analyticscanvas.com, start a free trial, and tell them VisionLabs sent you to get a little extra quota and build your better tomorrow. Now back to your video. All right, hopefully you're with me so far. So now that we've gotten some of the nomenclature out of the way, let's talk through how do we write this down and start building our plan. We're going to first talk about the technologies that we have at play. Technologies are the bane of most technical marketers' existence because every single team now is building out new softwares that say, we integrate with this, we do that. What we need to do is write that down. This is a super simple Google Sheet I've built where it says, hey, this is the technology that we're using. Maybe you have WordPress, you're also using HubSpot, you're also using Calendly, maybe you're also have some type of like instant page builder. I'm gonna just make up one that's called Instant And then maybe you also have Salesforce, right? So we're just building up the worst tech stack overlap that exists. But believe me, I'm sure you're watching this and you're like, I get that. We have that too. So then we're going to have why this exists. So WordPress, why does this exist? This is our main CMS, content management system. HubSpot, this is our CRM. Calendly, this books calls. And then we have these page builders, allows marketing to quickly build new pages, and Salesforce, which is where our SDRs and other outreach live. Again, not saying you should build this technology stack. I'm just giving you the basics of saying, let's start writing down exactly why these exist, and then the descriptions of where they are. And then if you have a link to a website where that does exist, we then can write that down. So we now have the essence of a plan. We have the idea around what we're trying to achieve. How do we start mapping that out? I want to encourage you to break it down by organic and paid. And let's just say organic is the classic like LinkedIn organic marketing or SEO marketing, or basically someone can end up on a page without you knowing exactly why they're there. And then we have paid, which is going to be you're directing someone to a particular page for a reason. Hey, this is a top of funnel ad campaign. We're spending $100,000 a month. They're driving to this article about how to start your business because we are HubSpot. You get the idea. So now that we have that, let's try to now diagram out what that looks like on our site. There are two types of like playbooks that we see in general. There's the hub and spoke model that I think HubSpot was the pioneer of, which is where you basically have a content vertical and then a bunch of things off of that. And then you also have the other model of using kind of the blanket market approach. Again, we're not a content marketing agency. I just work with a lot of companies to help measure the effectiveness of their websites. And so let's talk through what that looks like. So for example, you might have something like this where it's /blog/name of blog, right? That's the classic, like, hey, basics, here we go. And then here you have your like CCPM calculator. Maybe you also have something where it's more of like articles, and then you also have, let's go with, maybe you have case studies. All right, so now what we're looking at are these folders of content structure. Now what we're looking at are folders of content structure. This is something that SEOs are really big about, like saying, hey, let's group these appropriately. The measurement side of things, it really does help a lot because usually these will follow a particular layout, a particular theme. Because we can say, hey, what's the goal of these articles? Is the goal of these articles to drive trials? Is it to drive awareness? How do we judge that awareness? How do we know if that success actually lives on or not? Because what you can have is you can say, hey, we had a report, right? Let's just take this really simple example of we have our case studies, our calculators, we have our blog, and we have our articles. And what we can do is we can actually take those exact same things. Here we go. And we could say, hey, we had 100,000 views of this. We had 10,000 views of this. We had 50,000 views of this. We had 90,000 views of this. And we can start looking at, in the future, if we know what we're trying to do of these, we have how many views they had, and then we can say how many signups saw this on the way to their actual signup path, and then also how many landing pages occurred, and we can start breaking that down by traffic sources. If we don't have this plan of our technology overlaid with our strategy, it becomes very difficult for us to understand exactly where we're going. We work with a lot of teams where it's saying, hey, we have these articles, we have these blogs. How do we know if the blog is succeeding? Classic question. How do you know if these calculators are serving their purpose? Well, now you are going to start to look at how do we know that this actually achieves? So here we have page views. Now what we can look at is we can say, all right, for a blog, we had 10,000 page views. Of those, let's just say 1,000, they actually saw the pricing table. All right. And then of those, maybe something along the lines of 100 people, right, created an account. And we can do this exact same funnel for every single one of these content categories if we have our intentions correct. Because maybe your articles are pushing towards a different outcome. Maybe your calculators, the goal is to get them into the product. Maybe the case studies are meant to drive enterprise contacts, right? So we can start looking at this, help you starting to understand this, the future strategy of this, of overlaying our technologies, of what are we actually building with. We can have the strategy around what are each of these folders meant to do. And then we can start layering in what is the expected outcome of that. Quick interruption. If you would like to have us build this out for you, go to visionlabs.com/contact, fill out an application, and we can help your team build an actionable data plan that is squeezing out every last dollar for your data in 2025 and beyond. What we're going to have to look at, right, if we have a lot of these, we've worked with some clients that have 100 websites that are all very similar to this category, is what is the future stakeholder going to look at? Do we need to have a breakdown for a different page of reporting for articles, for blogs, for calculators, or do we just view all of this as content, right? So we just say, hey, we have one page of a report that is, hey, all the content here. But what do we actually do with that, right? That's the goal of what we're trying to achieve, is that we know what we are trying to get towards. Now, we've got our content sort of mapped out here. So we've got folders, we've got structures, we ideally have some sort of plan, and we're having that conversation now around what are we trying to do with this content. On the paid side of things, what often can happen is people start running paid ads to every random website out there. What we generally recommend, right, is that you have some sort of folder that is for paid ads. So oftentimes it's LP. You'll see that very often if it's a lead page or a landing page, right? So LP / our enterprise content guide, right? So now we have a core structure of identifying this, and there's other ways to do this with like a data layer and more technical implementations, but we're just trying to get the strategic idea of saying, hey, we have got a way to identify these. What we want to do now is we want to say, are these PDF downloads? Are these trials? What are the different types of entry points that you do have for your paid media as well as your organic media? Paid is the easiest way to look at this through a lens because most people forget about the organic side of things when it comes to signups, and they just look at paid. So it's easy to frame this through the lens of the paid media team because everyone's used to this. So we have PDFs, webinars, right? Etc. And so now we've got an idea of saying, okay, we've kind of separated out. So we have these LP pages that are for our paid ads. It doesn't matter whether we're spending $100 or $100,000 a day. We now have a structure for this, and we now have a structure for our content. So we've layered in some sort of, hey, why do these pages exist? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? And now we are starting to build out that structure of saying, we have 100,000 page views or 100,000 sessions that saw this. We then have 1,000 that saw the pricing table and 100 that saw this. Is that good or bad? Should we start adding in more blogs? Should we start building out more calculators? Should we improve the quality of these calculators? Where do we put our effort? That does not happen unless you know what the outcome of that effort was supposed to be. So what you can do is start building out this idea of saying, what are the different folders and types of content that we have? You don't have to always have folders, right? You can use other layers. We can use data layers. We can use other methods of identifying the type of the content. But what we really needed to say is, okay, we have on this website, we've got case studies, right? We've got articles, we have blogs, and then maybe you have subsets of blogs, right? So you can't spell blog, so that's a different idea. So maybe you have blogs that are for SMBs, right? Maybe you have small business blog. Maybe you have blogs that are for integration guides. And maybe you have a help center that is also an archive page. You can keep going, right? We have some people that have 50, 100 of these different categories that then have thousands of pages nested within these. But you really have to start thinking about the types of content. And then you can build out things where you say, hey, how many different types of content are we generating every single month? Where's the effort actually going for our teams? And what are the outcomes that are expected from this content? Then we can start building out reporting that makes sense to the actual team. What happens way too often is where a team has no idea what the reports mean. They're like, page views, good, but we want to drive pipeline, right? You want to drive leads, you want to drive revenue. So if there's no target to hit, it's very hard for people to actually hit that target. And that's why the reporting system is so good. So hopefully you have three main outcomes. You now have a way to start asking questions and say, hey, what is the intention of this content, of this stuff, so that you can say our intentionality and the outcomes and that overlap is where marketing lives. Use that. You have a way to start writing down your technologies, because those technologies are going to be the bane of your existence from an implementation standpoint, and also who owns what technologies, who do I need to ask, where is this, where do I go for this? And then lastly is your content types. What types of content are you using and utilizing? Where do those live? How do you know that they're the right pieces of content that you should have? The next video is going to be about how to structure your reporting now that we have the baseline of our content. If that sounds like you are excited for it, join us, subscribe, hit the like button down below. My name is JJ Reynolds. It's been a pleasure talking with you through this series.